Good morning. I'm Phyllis Rauchle. I am a member of the 2012 West Star class, and I have with me this morning as my legacy interview Marty Sisco, who is a financial investor with First State Bank. He is a former educator and successful basketball coach for Kenton and Union City High Schools, who has 3 state basketball championships. We won't have a lot of trouble in getting Marty to speak about his feelings about our community and his 2 professions as an educator and now as a financial investor. We do want to know his philosophy on life, where he thinks that our community is going, what he's learned from his past experiences in education and as a financial investor. I know he has lots of funny stories, and I hope he shares them with us. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Phyllis. I guess if you take a look at my career, I first started in public education in 70 and 71, and then spent 27 years in that, and then moved from education into, of course, the financial sector. Have no regrets whatsoever about the public education that I spent most of my life in. But if you look at my career, I think more than anything else, what pretty well shaped my philosophy and all was probably family. And I think that is an important point that I'd like to go into and stress today. But I was one of 6 children. Mom and Dad, I tell a funny story because she was a lot younger than Dad, but they raised 2 families. An older sister, of course, that I had, and myself. And then when I was 12 and she was 15, they started having their second family, and there was 4 more children then after that. We were very fortunate in that, of course, we were in a rural society. Maggie and I, of course, would go to school during the day, and when we would get home in the afternoon, there'd be a note on the table, and we'd get us a snack, and Mom and Dad would tell us what field they were in, and we'd go to that field. So the most of our early lives was spent, of course, in a family environment. And I feel like that the success that this country has had since inception, when in the late 1700s, when we won our independence, I think it goes back to family. And I think that that is something today that we've moved away from, whether it be a society that is no longer rural in nature, and as a result you do not have to, the family does not have to spend that much time together. I don't know exactly what the reason for it was, but I think that a rural setting, of course, just supports families more than maybe an urban society, which we've gone into today. And the time that I spent, of course, teaching, that was one of the things that I stressed to my classes. Of course, I was an American history teacher and a Tennessee history teacher. And I stressed that to them, and as I told someone the other day, I think that I saw this coming. I saw it coming from the standpoint that family no longer was important. We went through a situation there to where there's a lot of single households now, to where maybe the mom is raising the children. In so many instances, a grandmother is raising the children. And I think that that is a great deal of our problems that we're experiencing today. The time that I spent in education, and that's predominantly what I was in, the situation or the environment that we started in the 70s, I saw us gradually getting from one where the focus was on maybe the teacher and the school. And of course I know that anyone who watches this, and they're my generation, have heard the old saying that if you got in trouble at school, you also got in trouble at home. And as time passed and we got into the 80s and the 90s, we sort of got away from that. We got away from it from the standpoint it seemed like that the focus shifted to where when a child was disciplined, that it was always the fault of the school, and Mom and Dad just did not have the support. You know, I go back to when I was in school, And I go back to the time when you would get out in the community. And I can remember instances there to where maybe you would go into a store or something and you would see one of your teachers and or your pastor. And those people were reverend. Those people were someone that we looked up to and someone that we talked about. And that's no longer the case. And as a result, I think that's some of our problems that we suffer from. If you wonder what shaped me, I think that in order to succeed at anything, you've got to fail. And because I think that failure builds endurance. Whether it be in the athletic or the business world or whatever you're in, I think if you fail, you learn to endure. And if you can endure, it builds character. And I think that character is something that is very important. I don't know whether there is a Webster's definition for character that you can put in your pocket and you can carry around. But I think when you fail and you endure, you build character, and through character you build hope. And I think that's about all we have. I never think that hope will fail you. I think that hope will constantly carry you forward. It will allow you to achieve. It will allow you to reach your goals. And in talking about character, for anyone who's out there and sees this, and I guess maybe it's terminology that young people should maybe use, but never worry about reputation. Reputation is what other people thinks about you. Character is what you really are. And that's where the focus needs to be. As far as our community, I think that the success of Obion County as a whole, and I'm going back now to history, and I don't know whether it's not so much what we did as a community as it was like in the real estate world. You've heard the situation in trying to sell a home or a place that's called location, location, location. I think that we were very fortunate early in our history because of our location. I think a thriving community has to have, or a city has to have transportation. I think that's the key. And we were fortunate in that we had that. And as a result, as time passed, the type of transportation that we were used to, which mainly was rail, we sort of got away from this. And then when you look at your highway system, your river system, your rail, your trucking, and you look at a city like Dyersburg, and I think over the past few years they've thrived simply because they have all of those avenues for transportation. So I think early on our success was mainly because we were rail centers, what we were. And then you look at, and I'm going back a number of years here, but you look at not necessarily a huge factory that employed a large number of people, but you look at several, for instance, like American Metal back years ago, and I know I'm dating myself now. Real Foot Packing. Hanging in my office at the bank is 2 old Brown Shoe buildings. Brown Shoe was a major employer. And we had a large number of businesses, and people came from many areas, of course, to work at those. And then our focus moved more toward one employer. And of course, I think everyone knows what I'm getting at there, and that is the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Plant coming in. And I think we sort of lost our focus is what we did. We hitched our horses to that wagon, and we rode it for a while, and then when Goodyear did leave us, of course, last year, it's really been detrimental. I would hope that we're now regaining our focus. If you look at I-69 coming through, we hope, of course, that ultimately this will be completed. If you look at the river transportation, of course, the Mississippi River and what's going on there, I think our future is bright from that standpoint. The other thing that we have to do is, I think we have to attract our young people. Our young people have a tendency to go to school, and then they have a tendency to leave here and go elsewhere to work. I think the young people are the ones that are vibrant, the ones that are enthusiastic, and the ones that pretty well set the path or the course that we're going to be on for our future. I will say this from the negative standpoint, and having been in the school system for many years. I think one of the big negatives that we've suffered from in the county is the rivalry basically between the city and the county. And you saw it in education, you saw it in athletics, maybe more so in athletics than any other thing. And this is going to be something that's going to take generations, I think, in order to heal the wounds. Now, I'm not going to go into what caused those wounds. I don't know really and truly whether I know or not what caused it. But at the same time, one of the big detriments, I do know this, was consolidation. And I do know when you had the small schools like Dixie and Woodland Mills and Hornbeak and Obion and Troy, when you had those small schools, that was a center for your community to come together and to meet. And I don't think we will ever build the camaraderie nor the close-knit communities that we have now that we've gone to consolidation and Obion County Central was built, of course, and you no longer have your local schools. Granted, you still do have some of the elementary schools there, but it's still just not the environment and all that you had when I was a young man growing up. I made the statement that I felt like that failure built endurance. This is I say it's a funny story. It's actually a true story. It's something that happened to me that probably my mom and dad was not even aware of. But I think one of the things that shaped me, I was getting ready to be a freshman in high school, and I tried out for the baseball team, and I didn't make it. And that was probably one of the most devastating early childhood things that I had ever experienced. Because during that period of time, you didn't have you had buses, but if you stayed after school and you practiced for something, you pretty well walked home. And we lived about 4.5 miles from the school. And I can remember at that particular time walking home. Of course, when you have to walk 4.5 miles, you've got a long time to think about it. And I remember thinking as I walked home there that if it was in my power to prevent something from happening, simply I was not going to fail simply because I had not prepared. Or if the opportunity is there, then the preparation pretty well puts you in a spot to where you can succeed. But I think that more than anything else caused me to focus and to try to be prepared when maybe the opportunity presented itself down the road. If you look at my coaching, for instance, one of the things that I really feared was that during my coaching career was when you had young men that tried out for a team, whether it be when I coached baseball or whether I coached basketball, and you had too many and there was no place for them. I really was concerned about having to, using the terminology of a coach, cut individuals, and because that was something that had happened to me as a small child. I've never worried about getting old, because that's a privilege that's denied some people. So I've never worried about that. But I think one of the things is that maybe I made a difference. And I think that even more so than the financial side that I'm in now, the educational side, you touch so many children. And if Phyllis, the question of how, I want to be remembered, I would like to think that I would be remembered that in some of these young people's lives, I did make a difference. Maybe I impacted something that they did that maybe helped them in their lives. Because all of us, regardless of who we are, we really want to at least have made an impression once we leave this world. And we've had such a great opportunity as educators to be able to do that because we touched so many young lives.